Welcome back to Pro Studio Live. We're here in the live room, going to be taking a look at the vocal microphones we have set up with Chris Baseford and Core. So we have 3 microphones here. They're different types of microphones. Just discussed that they're a 47 type.
Yep, got a 47 style, 251 style, and a SM7.
Cool. So just broad strokes here, what kind of differences can you expect from these microphones between themselves? Just, you know, broad strokes.
Yeah, broad strokes. I mean, typically what like 47s are known for is being very, very large sounding mics, very girthy, kind of the mid-range. Sure. They've got a nice top, but it's not a super extended high end. That's kind of where the 251 differs from the 47 is the high frequencies and tends to sound a little more scooped, which sometimes works great, other times with certain singers doesn't work so well. And then the 57, or sorry, the SM7 is very mid-range focused. It's not that it's peaky like say an SM58 or something like that, but compared to these, it's not going to be quite as hi-fi.
So you might not hear the same response in the high frequencies. Not to say that it's not there. It's just it reacts a little bit differently.
Well, and plus once you get it in a mix, a lot of the time, especially with a dense mix like this, with a lot of frequencies going on at the same time, sometimes even with one of these other mics, you might end up EQing it down to where this kind of started.
Sure.
So that's why it's a good we kind of have the spectrum covered here between these. I mean, there are lots of great mics out there. I've got a bunch of great mics that I use all the time that are may slot in somewhere in between kind of the colors that these ones provide, but this kind of gives us a good array to start with. So.
Now we also have over here in the corner, we have the listening playback engine for the artist in here when they're tracking. This is a hearback system. Do you use all of these available encoders or knobs to give the artist the opportunity to mix their own headphone mix, or do you take that upon yourself when tracking?
Yeah, no, I have all my outputs out there showing up on the console just in stem. So I've got drums, bass, guitars, vocals, click track, talkback, whatever. So if I have that available to me and we've got a system like this, I always like to do that. That being said, some people don't like to, they don't have to think about it. So typically what I'll do is I'll set this mix up to sound pretty close to what I got in there. So if they don't want to do anything,
it already sounds
very similar. Cool. And then if they need something and they don't want to mess with it, then they can say, can you turn up the tambourine? Yeah, sure, no problem, or whatever. And I can just do it in there. So it's kind of whatever the artist prefers.
Cool. And then we also have a music stand that's for the artist to have their lyrics written out on paper there in front of them. Is that kind of common for you?
Yeah.
Do you like to leave this here, or is it kind of based off the artist?
But whatever they want. Some people got, I mean, everybody has their own thing now. Sure. You get guys with iPads and they got a clamp and they have their iPad there. Some people, it's a song they've been singing for a while. They know it, they don't need it. But yeah,
sure.
It's always nice to be prepared with whatever you need. Water, music stands, a stool, just get a big part of it is making the singer comfortable, kind of getting whatever they need ahead of time, so that way in the middle of a take they don't have to ask or whatever. So that's a very important part of this process is making the singer comfortable, getting them kind of into a zone to where they're not worried about just where they're going to put their lyrics, or if there's a drink for them.
Allowing the creativity to just happen rather than giving them more things to think about along the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Yep. So before we head back into the control room, where are we going to start? Which microphone are we going to be listening to first?
We're just going to go actually right to left in this scenario. So we're going to start with the 47 style mic, and then the 251 style, and then the SM7.
Okay.
And I just got a pop filter here, and that's just for the plosives. If you're talking to a mic and you hear the P's and the B's and the stuff like that, it's a big rush of air. This just filters that out a little bit.
Do you personally, quick question, do you personally prefer this cloth fabric for a pop filter, or maybe the metal grill style pop filter? Do you have a preference?
I use the metal one a lot, mainly because you can clean it very easily.
Sure.
Because these can get a little gnarly. So the metal one is very easy to just wash it with soap and let it dry and it's done. I mean, these ones you could do the same thing, but you have to let it dry a little more. But sonically, I don't find there to be too much of a difference. I have used some foam ones that have like 4 layers, and I do find that those might roll off a little high frequencies. Sometimes that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, it completely slipped my mind, and I'd like to ask this before we go back into the control room.
Sure.
Some of these microphones and some microphones that you might have at your home have modifiers like a low frequency roll off, maybe even a shelf to boost or cut, or maybe padding. Do you go about maybe, I guess that is kind of source dependent, but do you go about using those modifiers often?
Again, very, very source dependent. Vocal probably won't. I don't even think any of these have any pads on them. But for a vocal, I probably wouldn't use a pad in this situation. These are all set to cardioid. They can be. These two have different polar patterns. This has 2 different frequency adjustments. Right now, I'm just leaving it flat. Once I hear it, and if that's the mic we end up going with, then I might determine I'm going to use the low roll off or something like that.
Sure.
With vocals, I end up rolling off a lot of bottom end anyways, just to make it fit in a mix.
A lot of unnecessary information.
Yeah, and then the other thing with that is if you're using a mic preamp that doesn't have an EQ, like we do have a low, a high pass on the Neves, so I can just do it on there as well.
Sure.
But I don't like all that low end hitting the compressor if I'm not going to use it, 'cause it's gonna trigger it differently than if that low end, unnecessary low end wasn't there. So.
And one thing for the viewers at home to note is that this SM7 microphone is notoriously quiet, so we do have a piece of gear that boosts about 25 decibels, so it's at about a relative same volume as these condenser microphones when we're going into the board. Now, it doesn't color anything to my knowledge.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a pretty clean boost, and, and it's nice because typically you end up having to drive the mic preamp really hard.
Which could, in fact, color the sound of that, whether for better or worse. I mean, that's all subject to taste.
Yeah, it's nice just to be able to go from mic to mic and pop in the preamp, and the levels are about the same.
Exactly.